Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, you can see it and you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. And today we are discussing the 2015 to present Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Perpetual calendar. This is the 26574OR in rose gold, 41 millimeters. You can see the timepiece is broad, flat, and expands across the wrist, taking up considerable real estate in the sense that just about every Royal Oak does wear larger than its nominal size. On my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, this massive full bracelet red gold timepiece stretches 51 millimeters from lug to lug, but if you include the solid end links of the bracelet, you can see it flares out a little bit. It's a more robust 53.2 millimeters across the wrist. So I would say that this 41 wears more like a conventional 43 or a 44. It's a big one. It's not thick, however. At 9.5 millimeters thick with a rounded bezel flank, it does slide easily underneath the cuff. It is a very solid timepiece. Because of the amount of substance and solidity to the Royal Oak case and bracelet and clasp, I can actually tell you that this watch feels like a platinum watch from most conventional manufacturers. You get the same degree of finishing that you would expect on a stainless steel Royal Oak, but you get it in exquisite red gold. You can see the perfectly aligned satin finish from the lug hoods across the hoods of the links. You can see that the faces of the intermediate links are actually polished, so as you roll them through the light, you can see that these interior components are beautifully hand finished where you'll almost never see them. That's attention to detail. You can also see that the bevel expands from the mid case over the lug hood and then continues perfectly aligned along the flanks of the links, and then you can see that on the flanks of the links there's vertical satin finish rather than longitudinal, with plenty of gaps on the underside to avoid pinching skin, pulling hair, or trapping wrist heat. This is not Patek Philippe, so we don't use any pin sleeves here. Instead, we use solid red gold screws. When we want to remove a link or add a link, we use those screws. A robust clasp that feels such that only a few years ago this could be a clasp on a Royal Oak offshore. It's that solid. There's that much material here, and as you can see, it's nicely made, handsomely satin finished internally. Externally, it's also quite nicely made, closing sequentially and then locking courtesy of twin trigger release. Jumping back to the case, AP has always done things the right way with the Royal Oaks and the Royal Oak offshores. As you can see, that screws are used to fix the bracelet to the case, no spring bars here, and thus none of the security questions they can occasionally pose. Screw down crown in hexagonal form. You can see that the lines of the case perfectly aligned through the edge of the bezel, the mid case, and into the case back. Immaculate finish, and as you can see, design parallelism with the hexagonal crown paralleling the design of the white gold bolts that are within the bezel, and they are white gold bolts, and you can see that they are all properly recessed just below the satin finish of the bezel top. The octagonal bezel, originally inspired by a warship of the Royal Navy, the Muse, for Gerald Genta, who designed the original Royal Oak back in 1972, and this watch continues in that tradition with the same degree of attention to detail and hand finish. It continues on the dial, where the dial continues to be made on a 19th century style pantograph, essentially a lathe that mimics a template. It takes a large template with the textures and the hobnail that you see here, and then it inscribes that pattern onto the dial blank. It is then galvanized blue, which has the highest rejection rate of all of the dials. They have been made in-house at AP since 2012. The blue is the rarest because of the difficulty of production. You tend to see it at flagship retailers or most likely at AP boutiques. Now we'll get a little bit closer here. You can see one of the features that is a hallmark of this generation of the Royal Oak Perpetual calendar, and that is the flange outboard in metallic blue that is a weekly calendar. You can see it has 52 individual stops, 52 weeks of the year. Inboard, you can see a beautiful cruciform pattern balanced dial that has a mono counter up at 12 o'clock for the month as well as the leap year phase. You can see that there is a date at 3 o'clock, there is a day at 9 o'clock, and then there is a gorgeous crescent style moon phase with photorealistic moon and an aventurine moon disk, which is lovely and evocative down at 6 o'clock. So you have the practical, which is the calendar, and then you have the romantic, which is the moon phase. Turn it all over and you have AP caliber 5134. Why is this important? Well, because although it does have its basis in the ancient Jaeger-LeCoultre 920 Bausch, we're going to get real close here and try to avoid corrupting the focus. Although it does have its basis in a 1967 Bausch that was developed for JLC, Patek, and I should say rather VC, AP, and Patek. It was developed by JLC, never used by them. AP today makes this movement in-house. So while it powered the original Royal Oak and the original Nautilus and the Vacheron 222, today you only tend to see it on a handful of AP and Vacheron special references, and again, AP makes and finishes this movement entirely in-house. It beats away at the vintage evocative 19,800 vibration per hour beat rate. There is a free-sprung Gyromax style balance. It's adjusted in multiple positions. The Gyromax helps it hold that adjustment in the face of shocks, concussion, and disruption on the wrist. There is a full beryllium ring that runs all the way around the movement, and the gold rotor sits on that. You have a half winding mass, and then you have a full ring that actually rolls on 4 ruby bearings, one at each of the 4 corners, so that the rotor and the mass can never strike the ultra thin movement. That's how you can have this automatic system in a very slim caliber that is only 4.31 millimeters thick in total. It's because the actual ring and the mass are mostly in the same plane as the bridges. 38 joules, automatic winding with a 40-hour power reserve. All of this is immaculately finished. Abrasive wheel Côte de Genève, engine-turned perlage. You have mirrored anglage, that mirrored chamfer at the edge of every bridge, as well as the jewel and screw countersinks. All of the screws are black polished with their slots chamfered. And of course, it does feature a screw-down crown, but with 20 meters water resistance, you're probably not going to want to test the limits of this particular water-resistant timepiece. The Perpetual calendar, of course, needs no adjustment, able to cope with a regular length month and leap year. You need only adjust it once in the year 2100. You can see this Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Perpetual calendar and make it yours on the watch box. Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Perpetual calendar by night.